Hi, this is Everett, Everett's Watercolors. Welcome to my classroom. I'm broadcasting today live from Chesapeake, Virginia, and I'm broadcasting to the United States and all around the world. My wife Gloria is in the studio tonight.
Welcome, everyone.
And she'll be monitoring the broadcast and also checking the chat room. Today is November 10th, 2022, and it's a birthday of the United States Marine Corps. I was a Marine many years ago. And I want to, any Marines out there watching, I want to wish you a happy birthday. And tomorrow's Veterans Day. So tomorrow, thank you for your service. And today is a wonderful program to start you off with. Today I'm going to talk about graded washes. And a graded wash will give us a nice, beautiful background. And it also will give us a mood for a painting. And it's a great example of doing a silhouetted painting, which I'm going to do today. So let me go over to my painting table and let me demonstrate, and let's get started. Turn on the chat room. Okay, the chat room's on. Turn my light on. Okay. This is the graded wash, and what I'm talking about here, over here on the left, over here, this example here, this is yellow. I've used yellow lemon, and it goes down to the bottom, and then on the bottom I got cobalt blue. So it's really a wash coming down and another wash coming back up, a graded wash. Look how the smooth, gentle transition of colors from one to the other. That's a graded wash. This is a double graded wash. Over here I used red, pyro red, and down here at the bottom I used Quinanridone violet. So that gave me another coloring wash. Okay. So that's an example here of what the washes are. Now today I'm going to do one right here in front of you. So let me put this aside. Now the equipment I'm going to use today, so you can read what I'm doing. I'm going to use cobalt blue, cerulean blue for the cool colors. And I'm going to use yellow lemon and yellow deep for the warmer color. And I'm going to be using the Silver Brush Hake brush. Hake. I call it Hake. It's a Japanese term. Hake brush. I'm using Holbein Artist Watercolors. Holbein watercolor brushes also. And I'm using Gemini 140-pound cold pressed paper. Now, all these items are available on my website, everettswatercolors.com. And I'm also with Fun with Watercolors page, which I'll have a display of all my watercolors there on Facebook. And I have an Everett Watercolors art group, and these links to these two areas, the Fun with Watercolors and the watercolor art group, are all in the description of the video below. And I'll have a downloadable on my website. I'll have a downloadable link at the bottom of the screen and the description. The downloadable link to get the diagram today and a copy of the reference photograph. So you can paint along with me. Okay, this is a quarter sheet of Gemini watercolor paper. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up some colors. Let me go over here to my palette. And first of all, let me mix up, I'll start with a cerulean blue. What I'll do here is let me put this brush down. And I got my board tilted at about 15 degrees elevation. So it'll help the water run down the paper. Okay. I think I'll use another brush for the mixing. So I'll use the 3/4 inch Holbein brush and put out some paint out here. This is cerulean blue. We'll start with that. And down here at the bottom, I'm going to use lemon yellow. Wash out the brush, because I got blue in the brush also. So wash out so I have a cleaner color. I got my voice turned up so you can hear me. I'm also standing up because I'll be brushing down here on a slant. So I've got got myself standing up here. So first of all, what I do is we'll wet the paper. So I'll use the large hockey and just plain water. So I wet the paper all the way across. So let me move this over here so you can see me. I'll show it over there so you can see my paintbrush. Here I'm going to wet the paper, and that'll help the mixtures flow down the paper. I got this, as I mentioned before, I got it elevated about 15 degrees elevation. So that'll help the flow of the paper, of the paint. Make it flow a lot smoother. So you get the paper really wet. I mean, you get it nice and soaked because you want it. This is going to be a wet on wet technique here with this particular demonstration. Okay, and that'll soak in a little bit here while I get the paints ready to go. It's over here. All right, so the first one I'll start with. Let me start with the lighter color first. So I'll start with the yellow. I'll start with a warm color first. I'll start with the lemon yellow. Load the brush. I'll start at the top, go across, and as I come down, because the paper is wet now, it'll give me a graded wash as I go down. Okay, as I go further down, the wetness on the paper now will make because I've only got one brush load of paint here. One down to the bottom. So where I get a darker color at the top and a lighter color at the bottom. Okay, we're gonna do this again, so doesn't have to go all the way down. Now I'll move the board around the other way. Now I'm going to clean the brush out. I'm going to clean the brush out. And I have a towel here so I can wipe off the hake. And now I'm going to use that cerulean blue on my brush. You can see I'm loading out the brush now with cerulean blue. Okay, I'll go back to the paper, and it's remember it's wet, so I'm going to go across here with one load, one down to the other side. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna do another pass. So I'm going to come around, turn the paper over. Now I'm going to load it up. I'm going to use another color. I'm going to get a warmer color now. I use yellow lemon on the first pass. The first pass was yellow lemon. Now I'm going to move into yellow deep. So I'm loading the brush with yellow deep. And you want a fairly good mixture with lots of water, but a good pigment load. A good pigment load. Make sure, and then I'm using both sides of the brush. I'll go back here to my board. I start at the top. You can see here the color is much brighter now. A lot more paint on there. All the way down to the bottom. And I have found that you can do this as many times as you want. You can add more other colors. But here I'm just using two colors as a demonstration here now. You can use more than one color. You can use two or three. What I would recommend is start with a light color and then add the darker color on the other side. Okay, now I'm also going to switch the blues. I'm going to go into the cobalt blue. So now I'll mix up a little bit of cobalt blue. Should be a lot darker than I had before, but that's okay. I keep adding a darker value. Make sure I load the brush good with paint. Get a nice fill. loading both sides. And start at the top again. And I come across. And on these final pass I'm going to do, I'm going to get very gentle on the brush stroke, just very gentle stroke, overlapping the strokes as I come down, just barely touching the paper. Make it just a nice pass. Nice soft touch. Okay. Now those streaks in there, because I've got it at an angle, those streaks, the water runs down, the paint runs down, they'll all blend in together. Okay. So that's a sample of a graded wash. Now that's all wet, soaking wet. The next thing you want to do now is set this aside and let it dry. Okay. So I'm going to just move this off the board. This shows you how I did it. It shows you how I did a graded wash. I did the yellow one way all the way down, and then I turned to the blue and went the other way all the way down. Okay. And I did 2 passes. And you can do as many layers as you want to. You can get it darker. You can add more paint to it and make it darker as you go down. Now I'm going to move over to my... Okay, so this is one I've done ahead of time. I use the same colors. It's a little bit lighter, but I used the yellow ochre. I use a little bit of yellow ochre here mixed with the lemon yellow. And then down here I put the cobalt blue and cerulean blue down here at the bottom. Okay, so this is a finished one, ready to paint on. And let me show you my reference diagram. Okay, the reference photo today, because of this, I've been looking for a good silhouette, and I think a tree line like this is a good silhouette. Number one, I like the shapes. I got a variety of shapes. I go start over here, and I go down. I come up. A little bit of dipping here, a little dip, another little dip, and then I go down again. So that gives me a nice rhythmic line up there, a nice curve, a variation at the top of that. Then I have an interesting little pattern along here of different kinds of trees, different shapes. And the other thing is I got a nice dark section down here at the bottom, which I like also. Okay, so that's my reference photograph. And that'll be in my Foam to Watercolors page, which can be downloaded at the bottom of this video. Go to my website and download a copy of this picture. Okay, now what I did now is I used my... I did this in the field. I used my visual journal, which is in my Everett Watercolors travel set, and I have it with me all the time when I go on plein air. So last weekend I did this. I did a sketch of those trees now. So here's the sketch of the trees. So I was just showing you. I simplified a little bit some of the shapes. So this is what my design looks like right now. It shows the top of the trees. And really the prominent, I would say the prominent trunks of the trees. This part down here at the bottom, which is the fence line so forth, I may not paint that at all. But I'm more interested in the shapes up here at the top of the trees. Okay, so that's my design plan right there. And again, this will be on my website, which is downloadable in the link below of this video. Okay, next step I did a value study. So I took that same shape, and what I did was I decided I'm going to have darks and lights in here. I got lighter trees and darker trees. So what I did was I put in the different value here of some of these tree shapes. This is a dark, there's a lighter, a little dark here, a little lighter here, a little darker on this one, a little bit lighter here. So I got a pattern across here of darks and lights. And this is my dark area down here, those background trees. Okay, and I also did another one. I printed this off on a regular printer paper and just used a sketch and wash pencil to do the shading in. Here's another sample. Again, I like the pattern at the top of the trees, the light and dark pattern across the top. Just a solid color, and just this shows there was a waterway across here in the beginning. This is part of the waterway. And then there's another dark area there. So this is probably the way I'm going to paint. So I'm going to use my value plan I'm going to use my value plan to do the painting. And I'm going to use this value plan. So from the picture, I took this sketch, I made this sketch, and from the sketch, I made this value study. And from the value study is what I'm going to use to paint. So I'm going to put this over on top so I can look at it. What I can do now is I can leave the board here where it is, or I can, let's see, I think I'll leave it here where it is. But before I start that, you know, some of these trees, if you look at the photograph, you can see there's a different shapes and different textures of these trees. So it'd be a good idea before you get started is to practice trees. What I've done here now, what I'm going to do here now is show you a little bit of ideas of some of the tree shapes. So I've taken this sheet here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch brushes. I don't need the Hake brush here for this part. I'm going to use the 3/4 inch and the rigger brushes, 3/4 inch flat and the number 4 rigger Holbein synthetic brushes. And I'll mix up a little bit of, I'm going to mix up a little color here. I've got cobalt blue. Use about the same colors I used in the background wash, but I got add a little bit of green to that, and maybe a little bit of purple, Quinanridone violet. Take that in there. In other words, I want a dark color, and maybe a little bit of burnt sienna, and put a little bit more of that green back in. So it's going to have a green color, but it's going to be dark. Okay, now what I'm going to do on is just using this brush, I'm just going to go in here with the brush and show you a few strokes. Just lay it down on the paper. Just by hitting it on the paper, you get a nice shape right there. And then by using the corner of the brush or the edge of the brush, you can go out and make those leaf shapes on the branches. Okay. So you need to practice that a little bit with your brushes to make sure you can come up with an interesting design. Just by laying the brush down on the paper, moving it around, different directions. I did it up and down, left and right, using the edge of the brush, and you get a nice texture look. And this one over here, let me put a little bit area down here like this. Okay, because if you look at the trees, that's got clumps, but they're different. They got branches and so forth. Now you take the rigger and practice for that also. Take the rigger and take some of that same color, load the rigger brush, and then you want to go in and practice the trunks. And what that rigger does, bring it down, load up the brush. Need a pretty good load on this. And practice dragging that brush down and give you a nice shape of those trunks. And then you can go ahead back, get some more paint on the brush, and then practice maybe some of the branches you're going to put up in the foliage. Practice those branches. And that way, before you start your painting, you'd have a better idea of exactly how you're going to paint, or what style you're going to use there. Okay, so using these two brushes, a 3/4 inch flat brush and a rigger brush, we can go ahead and paint this silhouette. So let's do that. But that's a practice now to learn to be ready to paint the trees. What I think I'll do is bring my painting back on. Okay, so I've got my my painting plan here in front of me, and the first thing I'm going to do is put in some what I call markers, or a beginning stage. So I'm going to take a little bit of the same color we mixed up here. Make sure it's nice and dark, because it's a silhouette. Remember, I'm building a silhouette. So I want it to be dark. But this background now is going to give me a nice area to go. So the first thing I want to do is I want to locate using my value plan. I want to go in and locate those trees. So here's a tree over here I want to have. Okay, and there's a lighter tree in here. A lighter tree over here. And this big tree is going to have some darker values in it. So I'm going to use that same color I just used. So I'm turning the brush around. You notice I'm just plotting out where I want to put these colors or these marks. I'm just putting little marks in here to get started. And here's another one over here. It's got a more of a darker top to it. So I'm really kind of just setting the stage now, putting a little bit of background color. And this one over here at the end, this one over here has got a little, just be a little darker over here. And this is a light one. And these lighter trees now, what I'm going to do, there's a lighter tree right here. Look at my value study. I've got a light tree here, a light tree here, and a light tree over here. So I've got 3 light trees. So here's one here. I'm just going to touch the brush very lightly. Give me an indication that there's some leaves on that, but not very many. And there's a little bit over here. And there's a little bit over in this one. Okay. That's a little bit darker there. Okay. Now, the next step I think I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll establish the tree trunks. Now, you could use a rigger, but I'm going to go ahead and use the edge of the flat. So what I'm going to do, go in here now and indicate those trunks that I want to get in here. These are predominant trunks on these trees. And that'll also give me an indication of where I want to go with this. So just by using the edge of the brush, just using the edge of the brush, I can put in those tree trunks very quickly. Some of these trees are leaning, some are straight up and down. That's what makes it interesting. It's a silhouette. Also interesting shapes. This one here is also a larger tree. This is my largest tree here in the painting. So I'm going ahead and just marking where I think where the trunk is. Some of these trunks come forward, some of these trees are behind the other tree line. There's the trunks on this one. And a little light one over here. And there's a trunk over here that comes off at an angle. So I've got a couple different things here that's going on. Okay. So if you look at my value plan, and you see I've marked where the prominent trunks are. You can see where the trunks I put in there. And I've gone ahead and I've marked those on my painting. Okay, I got the trunks all the way across there. And I've got the silhouette that I want. Okay. Okay, now I can go in now and start putting in some darker color. So all I got to do now is add a little more pigment to the mix, a little bit of cobalt blue, a little bit of that green, maybe a little bit of Payne's gray to darken it down, maybe a little bit of Quinanridone violet, and maybe some burnt sienna. So I want to get it nice and dark. And go back and pick up some more of that green. Okay, now also notice the mixture. I'm able to see the paintbrush in the mixture. That way I know that's about the consistency I want. As long as I can see the brush stroke in my mixture, then I know that's about the right amount of water I want in the brush. Okay, If it was too runny, then it would spread too fast or too far. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and define some of these trees a little bit better. So I'm going to, now on this particular tree over here, I'm going to use the edge of the brush. I'm using the edge of the brush. I want to get a rough outline. And you build these trees up slowly. You don't go in there and put a big amount of paint on there. You want to get started. So start out slowly. Take your time. Get a good shape started. This tree over here has a couple large branches coming out, which I like. This little tree back here, I can make a little bit dark because it's in the shadow. And this big tree over here, this is really the main, not the main tree, but it's one of the bigger tree in the landscape drawing and also in the painting. So these branches now kind of branch out. There's a few branches down here further down. So kind of make this. What I'm doing now, I'm making one side a little different than the other. If I look at the trunk, I'm making this side different than this side because I don't want it to be symmetrical. I'll skip over. Let's skip this one. I'll go over this one over here. This is also a little darker foliage. It's got more foliage on this one. So I'll start on this. So I'm leaving lots of openings there for putting limbs in and let the skies show through. Let some of that light sky show through. And this one over here is also a little got some darker foliage on it. So this is a building up process. It's you're taking your time. Also looking at you look at the, if you're outdoors watching plein air, then you'd be out there painting what you see. Here I'm looking at the photograph a little bit just to look at it once in a while and get an idea of the shapes. This one over here has more limbs over here than it has leaves, so we'll leave that one alone. Okay, now I'll go in now and start working on the background trees. There's this dark area that I can get in. Now, well, I'm going to switch brushes now. I'm going to go back to the Hake brush, the small Hake. I'm going to pick up some of that dark color. So I'll make up a nice mix here of that cobalt blue, some of that green, maybe a little bit of burnt sienna, a little bit of Payne's gray, a little bit of the same mixes I've been using. But this will be the darker mix. So I'm using a bigger brush now because I have a larger area to cover. And again, I'm going to make this also artistically different. I don't want to have straight lines or too many duplications of shapes. So I'm trying to make the shapes different. Some are larger, some are smaller. Some are high, some are low. So I'll move this board up. This painting board I use outdoors also in my plein air. It's the it sits at a nice angle, and when you're painting in plein air, you want to have the painting in front of you, just like I am now. So I'm almost painting like I am outdoors, watching the tree line. Okay, so there's a waterway that goes along this tree line. These trees are located right along the edge of the waterway. So I'm putting a little water line down here because I think that was interesting. And instead of putting the other shapes that are on there, I decided to simplify this and just put the water down here. It tells the story. It tells the story that the tree line along the waterway, and I think that's all I wanted to show. But the idea here was to do the the graded wash, and then to paint the silhouette. And this silhouette's always fascinated me, the tree line. And also by putting the darks down here in the foreground, it makes that top part really pop out. And that's what I wanted to show also. When you do a silhouette, you want some real dark areas to define the light areas. Okay. And what I can do now is just put the Hake brush away. Go back to the round brush one more time, or flat brush one more time. Mix some more of that mixture up I had of the cobalt blue, a little bit of quinacridone violet. I'm really using just my dark colors: cobalt blue, quinacridone violet. Go back to that green number 2, and then even a little bit of Payne's gray. And I get a nice dark mix. That's what I want, just a dark color. And check my consistency. Remember, I showed you that if you see the brush strokes in the palette, then that's how much water I want in the brush. Okay, now what I want to do now is I want to go in here and put in some more edges on this tree line here, with this bush line. So I'm going to go in here with a brush, and I'm going to put a little rough edge along here. These are low-lying trees in the background. Or well, it's actually middle ground, background. They're all mixed in together. But there's an edge to these trees. This is a tree line that's forward of small bushes and small trees. So I want to give a rough edge to that. I don't want to have a smooth edge. I want to have an irregular edge. And I'll even take this along in here and put in some darker brush strokes here to kind of break this up a little bit, to give a little texture, to simulate that there's bushes and trees down here. So I mean, this is what brushwork does. It gives you a variety of the color, gives you a little bit of interesting texture. Okay. And back in here, I'm going to load the brush up a little bit. And I'm just going to go back here, and I'm just going to tap in some little rough areas back in here, because these are other trees and shrubbery and other foliage that's in the background. And turn the brush, get a different direction. You want to keep a nice variety going, and move the brush around, up and down, to the side. So I'm just building a little bit of texture back here to break this up here in the background, with the main characters being the tree line that I have. Maybe now we'll darken a little bit of these up a little bit just to give it a little bit more, take away some of those straight lines. It gives a rough edge. Okay. Now I can take my rigger, load up the rigger with this dark. I can put a little more indication here of those low-lying trees. Put in some trunks. Give a little interest there, a little variety. Okay, now I'm going to go back and work on those trees some more. So load up the 3/4 inch flat brush. And now take a look at my photograph. And let's say on this tree over here, I'm going to put a little more branches out here. Build up those branches a little bit because this is a pretty big tree here. It was thicker. And it came down and it's got some lower branches. And this tree back here was a small tree, a smaller tree, but it had a little bit of shape to it. Behind there. And this tree just had a few. It didn't see, there were just branches, mostly branches on this one here. Leave that one alone. This tree here had a little more foliage on this one. Okay. The more pigment you put in your washes, I'm going to show you some more examples. I've done a couple more examples of these tree lines and so forth, and I'll show after this demonstration here. Then I'll show you a couple more I've done to give you some more examples of what you can do. And I've got some stronger colors and different colors and so forth. Yeah. Yeah, and watercolor, always, it dries about 40%, 30 to 40% lighter when it dries. So you have to put a little bit more pigment in the brush than you would normally. But what I always look at, you put a light layer in first, then you can always go back in and add a darker layer on top to modify that. And that's the way to do it, is not go in too dark, first of all. Start out light and then build up the color and the layers. Okay, all right. Now I'm going to use the rigger again. What I'm going to do now is build up the limbs. On this one here, we're going to put in a couple branches on top of this one. Give this a little more character. By adding the branches, it makes it look more like a tree when you put the branches on top of that. And build up this trunk a little bit. Okay, it's more like a tree now. And then this one here, we can build this one up a little bit more. This one has some more branches in it. All you see here is a trunk on this one. And this one has a nice big trunk. And we'll put some branches on this one. Now this one over here I like because this is the one that had most of the branches that I've seen on the trees. This one came out like this. Then it was a branch came down here on this one. And there was a couple long limb branches over here. So adding the branches, I think adding the branches gives the tree a lot more character. And adding a little more width to the trunks, make them look a little stronger. So there's a lot you can do to a tree line by adding different shapes in there, different sizes, different kinds of trees. You can do you can do whatever you want. I mean, I could have made a variety, but I took the tree line here that I like. I used the trees that was there and used them as a sample. Okay, I think the only other thing I want to do now, maybe just to finish it off, I'm going to add a little bit more background in here. Cover up, because this was very thick foliage back here, very thick. Lots of trees in the background, but those prominent trees are the ones that stood up. Okay. All right. Okay. That's my demonstration showing you the graded wash from using a warm color coming down and then flipping the page and doing a cool wash going from the bottom up, and then using using a flat brush and a rigger to build the outline of the trees. Okay. Well, let me show you the one that I've done earlier and a couple of examples of a graded wash. So this is just for the demonstration today. And you can see, I think it makes a great background for a painting, the graded wash. That's number one. And number two, it gives you, to me, a silhouette is a great way to do this on a landscape because you got that light background and you got that dark foreground that really shows off the design and the shapes of the painting. So let me show you. Before I go, let me put the mat around this just to give you an idea of what it look like. So by putting mat around it, it makes it look even better, I think. And let me straighten it up here so it looks good on the monitor. Ooh. Get it straight on the board and straight on the table. There. Okay. All right, that's what it looked like under a mat. And I think as a starting point, I think that's pretty good. I could go on in and put a lot more darkness in there, but for right now, I like that. I like the texture and I like the shapes. I like the movement of the trees. That's what really drew me into the painting itself, was the movement of the tree line. So let me show you another one I did. One similar to this. Okay, I put the mat around that. It's this is the one I did earlier, just for practice. And here, I built the trees up a little bit, another layer on top of one I started to show here in the demonstration. And I also included on the bottom here, included the fence line and these low-lying bushes here. But I think there was just too much distraction at the bottom, so that's why I just decided to go ahead and just paint those out for the demonstration. So either one would work, but this is another example, again, of that graded wash. You can see a little more pigment on this one and a little bit brighter on the background. So that's a variable. Okay, let me show you a couple more examples. I think I've got a couple more I want to show you. This is the graded wash. I used a lot of, believe it or not, I used the red, yellow, and blue up here in the sky. I try to get like a sunrise, really a sunset sky by using red, yellow, and blue up here. Kind of mixed up the colors. And then down at the bottom, I put basically orange and a lot of burnt sienna down here. But you can put a silhouette of here's a boatman down here and his rowboat, fisherman down here. And I put in other just like, so that's one example. I'm saying graded wash and then a silhouette. Here's another one I did. I left a lot of white paper here on this one. More of a sunset with a tropical scene. Couple figures over here on the right, and a little bit of ocean breaking the waves in coming in. That was done with a lot of burnt sienna, and I got a little bit of reds in there, a lot of reds and blues and burnt sienna. So you can use other colors in your graded wash. There's an example there of say a blue and say oranges and maybe some reds, and I put violets in there also. Okay, here's one here, a little bit darker. A little bit darker. Again, I did like 4 or 5 times on this one. I added more layers of the colors as I came down. So you can build up the colors and different layering, bring it down. I wouldn't do too much mixing. I wouldn't mix say a cool color in up here on top of the warm color right away, because it would muddy up that color. But by keeping the same color family together, put reds and oranges and yellows up here, and then the blues and the grays down here at the bottom as you go up the other way. Okay, but this is another tree line. I did this from this is imaginary tree line. I didn't have anything to go by on this one. It was just playing around with the colors. Okay, now here's one I really pushed the limit on this one. I will try to make a little like a moon glow into the water. I was just playing around with the mood on it. This is more of a mood type painting where you have some kind of a moody background and then have a shadow pattern and a reflection maybe in the water. So this is more of a mood type painting. Okay, all right. Let me take you over to my main camera. Let me get my text here. I'll put my text up. Yeah. Transition. All right. So it's these graded washes are very interesting because it gives you an opportunity as an artist to really you can push the limit. You can make the colors really anything you want. You can make them warm and cool. You can make them, and the graded wash works fine. You saw me put the light color down first, and I put the dark color going the other way right over top of it. And as long as you keep it nice and light, it does give you a it gives you a graded wash, but also gives you a nice, I'd say, a mood. It also gives you harmony on the painting. All the colors sort of match together because you got all the colors mixed. The light color and the dark color all mixed together, so it gives you that mood and it gives you the harmony of the painting already. Then use the same kind of color mix when you do the silhouettes or whatever painting you're going to put on top. Now, I could have used colors on top of those, what I did to that, but I decided to use a darker and use it as a silhouette painting instead of another kind of painting. My links up here are shown on my left over here. You can see I've got the Fun with Watercolors art group over here. There's a link to that. It'll be in the description of the video. And you can go there and you can post your paint along. Now to get the paint along, you go to this website here. You go to my website, and there's a link to it right there, which is Fun with Watercolors art group. And that Fun with Watercolors group, you get the downloadable picture of the sketch I did today, and also a picture of the actual photo reference. And you can paint along and do your own wash and do your own background, and just have fun with it. Then you can post it on the Fun with the Watercolor art group on Facebook. Okay. Now the video today will be on my live classroom on my web page, and all those are posted on there. Every week when I do a live class, I put it on this link right here. You go back and look at it on my website, and there's a link to it right there. So I had a lot of fun today. Request that you and your friends to look at this video. Subscribe to my channel. Give me a thumbs up. It helps in my rating. It helps with my broadcast. So, and I'll see you again next week on Thursday. I'll see you next Thursday.